So there's this really interesting clip in Tears of the Kingdom's recent trailer where Link fuses a Kisa's eyeball with his bow and creates homing arrows. This tells us two things. One, old materials from Breath of the Wild are coming into Tears of the Kingdom with new uses, and two, the devs are taking creative liberties with item properties. The Kisai, for example, doesn't just make your arrows hit harder, it makes them look for something to hit. Now, with the game releasing in under a month, we don't have much time to theorize about what every potential returning item will do, but between myself, Alex, hello, this is me, I'm once again introduced my co-host Jacob.
I don't really know. I'm not really sure. I don't know if there's I'm trying to think of
And our special guest Sakka says,
I'll tell you, Mr. Aonuma, I'm going to tell you one thing. You are going to regret putting me into this position of power.
We're going to knock out as many as I'll have time to edit. So here's what's on the table for today. This is every item ZeldaDungeon.net classifies as a material, all of which seem decently likely to be fusible, and it's about a third of what could be collected in Breath of the Wild. Assuming they come back in Tears of the Kingdom, what will their new properties be? And, more importantly, what fancy tech can be done by combining them with Link's sword, shield, and bow? Let's start it off strong, you guys. Let's talk about apples. So the in-game description for apple: a common fruit found on all trees all around Hyrule. Eat it fresh or cook it to increase its effect. Now, what is this special property of this apple gonna do?
Here's the thing with the compendium. The definition of the apple, I'd like to deconstruct it momentarily because it's missing something crucial. The apple isn't just for eating or cooking. The apple is for taming horses. Here's my idea. We could create a whole ass meta game with the horse taming in Tears of the Kingdom using apples. You stick an apple on an arrow, long range horse taming.
Yes.
You stick tell you what, you stick an apple on an arrow. You shoot that at a bokoblin. The horse starts running towards the bokoblin. You shoot another apple arrow at the horse. You tame it. You jump on that horse. The apples are gonna crack this wide open.
This is amazing. You could do like a horse stampede, actually. Like if there was a bunch of horses, you shoot an apple
horse
into
stampede.
the middle. Yes. This is amazing.
Wait, what if you fused? Okay, I actually don't know how this works, so I'm just gonna throw this one out there, and we're gonna try and spitball off this. Do you know the wind sword?
Yeah.
So do you know the way that you use that and it shoots wind?
Wait. Are we talking like the Yiga wind sword that the big strong Yigas have, or are we talking like the Korok leaf wind?
The big Yiga wind sword.
Okay, yeah. The slashy slash, the slice them up one. Got it.
Yeah. So like, hypothetically, if you were to fuse an apple with a wind sword, would you then be summoning apples from the sword? Like, would you be absolutely raining down hellfire using apples?
Because it summoned wind, but now since you equipped an apple, it like multiplies.
Now it's an apple sword.
Whoa.
Wait, what's the name of this weapon?
The Yiga sword?
The Yiga sword?
No, it has a different name. It's like a samurai katana looking thing.
I don't know why I don't remember this. Oh, the wind cleaver.
That's it, the wind cleaver. I don't, based off what we saw in the trailer with them combining the rock, I do expect it's going to be kind of linear with how these things work, and I expect it's not going to be so much the sword changing the properties of whatever you equip to it, but rather whatever you equip to the sword changing the sword's properties. If you equipped an apple to a flame sword, I could see you getting like a toasted apple from swinging it.
Oh, that'd be so sick.
Yeah, right? But I don't expect that it'll fundamentally like change what the sword does. The wind cleaver, I would more expect it to swing and it would shoot wind, and you would also just kind of have an apple on the end of your sword for some reason.
What about the meteor rod? You know, the one where you shake it and like the fires come off it.
Maybe that would shoot like a flaming apple that bounces actually.
Or a boomerang on an apple. You throw that boomerang, the horse sees the apple, it starts running towards the boomerang. Boomerangs, let me tell you something about boomerangs. Boomerangs come back. So that boomerang comes back, now the horse is coming back to you. That's expedited horse taming.
That actually is amazing.
That's actually pretty big plays.
Yeah, that's big brain.
And apples could be underrated. It could be an underrated strategy.
We're on the first item here, and we're just breaking this all open, right? So let's go final thoughts on apples. because we've now spent like 5 minutes discussing the first thing. Does anyone want to add any more big brain apple plays? Let's go into our next fruit, you guys. Let's talk about palm fruit. This is fruit from palm trees that grow near the ocean. It doesn't offer any special effects, but will increase your heart recovery when used as an ingredient. So what are y'all gonna do to break palm fruits?
Palm fruit. Palm fruit is like
It's like an ocean tree fruit. So it's like a bigger
like a coconut.
It's not like huge. It's like halfway in between an apple and a hydromelon, which we'll get to in a bit.
Here's what I think about the coconut, which is what I'm going to call it, 'cause it kind of looks like one. I feel like that'll be such an excellent, like, it's not even really a good answer, but like, fusing potential wise, it's kind of got a lot of meme potential. I feel like this is going to be the meme weapon of the game. Like, wooden spoon, soup ladle, and like coconut. It's like, haha, I bonked him on the head with a coconut and a spoon, and that's going to be like the meme thing. I can't really think of that many practical appliances because it's kind of a useless item. But I feel like it's going to be a really funny one.
Definitely. I think it could be, I think it'll make something similar to like what the rocks do. I don't expect it to be anything too crazy. These things don't like explode or anything, I don't think, in Breath of the Wild 1 if you hit them too much. So just like a standard damage increase is probably the most of what I could see being done with it. I don't know, any ideas on your end, Jacob?
Yeah, I think all these fruit here, except for maybe a couple exceptions, will do very similar effects, if they really have any unique effects at all. You know, luring particular creatures in the world that like that specific fruit. But I don't really see any super unique effects to be had from them.
The Wildberry, the next item on our list, that one says a fruit that grows in cold, snowy regions known for its sweet flavor. It doesn't offer any special effects, but it's a popular cooking ingredient. So this one like blatantly says it doesn't do anything special, but it's also a small berry, which I think, as opposed to the apple and the palm fruit, that has a niche in its own way. I was thinking about this before we started recording, and I was thinking a lot of small things like small berries and flowers and stuff may have some interactions with bees in particular, because I feel like they would be attracted to them. But I don't know like how much more you could do past that besides like maybe shoot an arrow combined with this thing and then it lands near a beehive and it lures bees away, but I don't know.
That's clever. That's very clever. The idea of it as a lure for... Do you mind if we jump to Mighty Bananas? Because you just stuck something in my mind there.
I had that exact thought also before recording. Yeah, let's talk about Mighty Bananas because that'll be similar.
Mighty Bananas, the Yiga love Mighty Bananas. You put down a Mighty Banana, that works as a fantastic distraction. The Yiga will walk over to it and absolutely go to town.
They go bananas.
There's some possibilities here.
If we're going to talk about the Mighty Bananas, I have to mention, if you put Mighty Bananas on your shield, are the Yigas going to be unwilling to attack you?
Oh my god, are they going to try and eat your shield?
If you had a yellow shield and put Mighty Bananas on it, would they mistake your shield for part of the bananas?
Oh my god, what if you put a fucking Mighty Banana on like a thunder sword, like the thing that catches the people on electricity and catches people on electricity that electrocutes you, and you leave like that sword in the Yiga hideout. Are they gonna walk up to it and just absolutely go to town on that electric blade?
I think they will, because in the past game you could like charge like metal blocks just by leaving electrically charged weapons on them. So I think just a Yiga touching it would hurt them. So if you left it somewhere as bait, I do expect that they would try and eat it and then get shocked for it.
I cannot wait for this game. I actually can't.
I want to discuss all of these, even though like most of them are not going to be as exciting as the apples or the bananas are. But just to see like what crazy ideas we can come up with, let's continue with the Hearty Durian, which says this fruit's mighty odor has earned it the nickname King of Fruits. It offers immense restorative power. And immediately I'm drawn to that mighty odor comment. There has to be something you can do with this, guys. Like, what can you do with a really foul-smelling fruit if you combine that with your shield, your sword, or your arrows?
You could neutralize the smell of a computer science classroom, that's for sure. You could... I feel like that would be really fun to shoot into the eye of a Hinox because of the spikiness of it.
Oh, that's true. Maybe it would actually like stick to them.
Yeah.
Are there any other enemies where like something pointy would logically stick to them? Would that, like, what would happen if you shot that into something like a choo-choo? Would that go inside their body, or would it just kill them like normal?
That's interesting.
I assume with most of these items that upon hit they will just be one use, sort of like what we saw in the trailer, where the construct hit the shield with the Puffshroom, and then that was sort of just it did its effect, and then it was kind of over. So I think all of these attachments are probably going to be one use. Besides, like, you know, the boulders, the logs. You know, anything that's in your inventory, I think is probably going to be restricted to one use in many cases.
I do want to say, off of that, our next thing on the list is the Hydromelon, and melons are like pretty big, so I think if you put that on a sword, that would be very similar to like what we saw with the boulder in the trailer. Like, I don't think a melon would break in one hit, would it?
Maybe not, depending if they really paid that much attention to detail to the melons, or maybe they did, who knows.
The Hydromelon has a hydrating liquid that provides a cooling effect that when cooked increases your heat resistance. What if you were to fuse the melon to like a shield and walk around with the shield out? Do you think that would, I don't know, maybe would that give heat resistance to the shield?
I don't know if a melon would do that, but like in my crazy dream world, what you could do is you could shield surf with it, and then it would kind of like squash the melon when you land, and that would let out like a burst of water or something, which would then cool you, and Link would be wet for a little bit. That's my dream. But I don't think like just holding the melon would be enough, because in the first game, most of these didn't have special properties unless you specifically cooked them. Like stuff like the Frost Blade would keep you cool in the first game. But
yeah,
like I don't even think holding out the chew jelly, the ice chew jelly in your hands would cool you. But I don't know. I haven't actually tested that. But maybe they will specifically give things properties like this in this new game because the fusing is such a big mechanic. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean that said, it's just set off my mind thinking about those kind of status effects. I remember you were saying about the mighty odor, quote unquote, of the Hearty Durian.
Right.
Maybe there's going to be some kind of mechanic. If you stick that in a shield, you can walk through a place and like enemies kind of avoid you because your shield stinks.
That sounds amazing. I think most of these interesting applications are going to be applied to the bow or the shield. I think in general, most of the sword ones are just going to be like, you hit it a little harder, and then maybe if you have something like the Puff Shroom that they showed in the trailer, it'll explode. But for the most part, I don't expect them to do anything besides slightly increase your damage. But there are some that I think are exceptions, and we'll get to those. Let's discuss the spicy pepper, because this one, I have no idea how to use this. So I'll read the description, then we can come up with cool ideas. So this pepper is exploding with spice. Cook it to create dishes that will raise your body temperature and help you withstand the cold. So exploding with spice is an interesting way of phrasing that. I feel like there's something you can do there. But what do you guys think?
What about a Korok leaf? You make that spicy, suddenly you've got a flamethrower.
That's crazy. Is spice the same as like fire though?
I imagine it would have like a similar, I feel like in my head, if you shoot a spicy pepper, let's say if we talk about the arrows,
right?
If you pierced the spicy pepper with an arrow and you shot it at an enemy, game logic wise, I would imagine there would be some kind of heat explosion to an extent, I suppose. So I feel like if you were to pierce a quote unquote spicy pepper, like a Breath of the Wild spicy pepper, with the point of a Korok leaf, and then you used the spicy aroma from that and combined it with the Korok kind of magic wind, you would create a really hot wind that could potentially catch fire. Again, like I'm spitballing using Breath of the Wild game logic, but
yeah, that'd be really cool because it would make updrafts too.
Yes, true.
Like, I don't know if they'd go as far as to do something like what you would expect from real-life peppers, where, like, if it exploded near them, it would get in their eyes or something, and then make them drop their weapons and, like, jump around, like, get that out of my face.
Yeah, I think that would be a little too much.
Yeah, that would be, like, a lot of development time into just one item. But, you know, like, if they wanted to make every item have a purpose, and we actually know the spicy peppers are coming back because they're in the trailer. So if they went out of their way to make all of these have a purpose when fused with things, these are some of the routes they could go. I think the next one's a lot more interesting though. This is Voltfruit. So this is cacti found in the Gerudo Desert. It's naturally insulated, so when cooked into a dish, it provides resistance against electricity. So this fruit, naturally insulated, that could be really interesting if you're using a metal shield and you equip this to it and you're fighting an enemy with an electricity weapon. The insulation from the fruit could perhaps protect you from an electric weapon, even though your shield is metal. What do you guys think about that?
I wonder if you have to like worry about then like what part of the shield that you hit. Like, is it gonna be like no matter where they hit you, are they gonna automatically hit the fruit first, or is it gonna like cover the whole shield? Could it hit the shield without hitting the fruit first? I don't know. Like that's sort of the thing. Like it's gonna be like a weird interaction that you're gonna have to play around with. The game, but I think based on the description, I think it would have resistance against like electricity attacks.
Logically, it makes sense. It could, like what you're saying, I don't think Breath of the Wild 1's combat was not very precise in the sense of like you have to guard certain ways too much, minus the parrying mechanic, but ignoring that, I could see it being a thing like if you're fighting an enemy who hits really hard, so they have like a big bludgeoning weapon, like say a Lionel as opposed to a Bokoblin, I could see that hitting so hard that it kind of ignores the resistance from the Voltfruit. But in the event that you were fighting a weaker enemy who couldn't realistically like smack your whole shield in one blow, I do think this would protect against electricity, especially like the Thunder Keys. Like, you know, this just makes sense.
It's also interesting when you brought up parrying. I wonder if the item will not be used up upon like parrying an attack.
Oh, that actually might be like a big thing in this game. Actually, that makes so much sense.
I think there's an interesting question here that the Voltfruit, like in theory, might bring up is with these fruits. If you were to put them on an arrow, are we potentially looking at a situation where like the fruity kind of materials, when shot at enemies, would an enemy or a non-player character immediately consume them, as against being damaged by them? Like if you shot an apple at, like for example, if you shot an apple at a Bokoblin, would the arrow go into the Bokoblin's mouth and he'd swallow the apple and maybe heal him? That kind of application is interesting in the context of the Voltfruit. Because let's say there's a biome like the Gerudo Desert where there's a lot of electricity, or there wasn't in the first game, but like hypothetically, if there was a biome full of electricity you wanted to go across in your horse, you feed it the Voltfruit, or for example, you want some NPC to survive, you shoot a little arrow with the Voltfruit on it at them, and all of a sudden now they have the status resistance that the Voltfruit provides.
That would be really interesting. I know in the first game you could feed your horse different things, and I think it increased like its affection for you, but I don't know if it did anything besides that. Would fusing in any way make them want to add interactions like that, I guess is the question.
That idea feels to me like something that I might see on Twitter. You can shoot an arrow with a spicy pepper at a Bokoblin, then all of a sudden he starts panicking because he doesn't know what the spice is. Now they're all distracted trying to figure out what's wrong with this guy, and now you can just waltz through. See what I mean?
Yeah, that sounds like something that makes sense. Next in line, we got Fleet-Lotus Seeds. So this one says, the plant that bears these seeds grows near deep water. The roots draw nutrients from the water, which boosts your movement speed when the seeds are cooked into a dish. Now, these ones are one of the ones where I'm just looking at it and I'm like, what do you do with these? Like, it's a flower, right?
It looks like a honeycomb.
It does look like a honeycomb, but it grows near water, so it doesn't have any relation to bees. I genuinely don't know what they could do with this. Would it just be like a filler item that you can just sort of shoot and there you go, just because it exists? Do you guys have any ideas?
I mean, I'd like to imagine that it would increase the speed of like a spear or an arrow, but again, like that
would be more valuable than nothing, certainly.
Yeah, I think that's really the only possibility that could come out of this, other than it just being another fruit and it really not having an effect. I think that's probably the most logical given its description.
So we saw some cool stuff with mushrooms in the trailer itself, but a lot of these mushrooms are just like generic, here's a little bit of health or here's a little bit of stamina. So if any of you guys have any ideas with the Hylian Shroom, which is a common mushroom found near trees around Hyrule, these are known to have healing properties, I'm all ears, because I think even if you put this on a shield and blocked it with something, I don't expect it would heal the enemy. I don't expect it would heal Link. I think it's just a mushroom, y'all.
I think it's just a mushroom.
You stick that mushroom. You stick that mushroom on an arrow. You shoot that arrow at some non-player character, and you send them on a deep spiritual journey into the unknown.
Maybe they grow double in size, like Mario.
Next, we have the Endura Shroom, a rare yellowish orange mushroom. It's said to greatly improve the stamina of those who consume it. This is another case where I don't think you could feed it to anything in particular. Like, I don't see how shooting it at enemies would help. Maybe it would like increase the weight of an arrow or like a bludgeoning weapon to make it deal slightly more damage. But I don't know what kind of special properties they would give something like this.
It could be the ultimate refute to the people who still maintain that durability's bad. As in, like, if you were to fuse this with something, maybe it would be like, maybe this is like the one. I think he mentioned that a lot of the fuses will increase the durability, but perhaps this one specifically has no other effect. Apart from that, it dramatically increases durability of an item.
That's a great idea, actually. I like that.
That would be interesting. The only other thing I can think of for like sort of these applications is that when an enemy, specifically when it's attached to your shield, when an enemy hits your shield, it gives you a little bit of stamina or a little bit of health back. So you don't have to menu for it. It just sort of automatically happens as a little bit of extra safety to your blocking. I don't know how that would be useful for having it like on your shield or an arrow.
For a shield, that sounds a lot better than an arrow, because an arrow, it wouldn't be near you when it does it. We got more mushrooms here, actually. We got a Stamella Shroom, and this one is a green mushroom that grows near trees in the forest. It's chock full of natural energy, which it will impart to anyone who consumes it. So, piggybacking off your last idea, same thing. If you block it, maybe you get a little bit of stamina back. I don't think in Breath of the Wild 1 it ever took stamina to block things.
No.
It was only like spin attacks and I guess great spins with the bigger swords and whatnot. So I don't know how valuable it is getting stamina back in combat. Is there anything you could do with like the paraglider while you have it equipped? Like, I don't know.
It's hard to say. I'm going to piggyback off Jacob's joke and just say it gives you an extra life.
Hearty Truffle apparently is also a mushroom. I didn't know that. This rare mushroom has a rich scent. It's positively bursting with nutrients down from the earth. So in the first game, all the Hearty foods just maxed out your HP and then give you a little bit of the yellowish gold hearts on top of that. I guess maybe this would just be like a better version of what we were saying with the Hylian Shroom.
Here's the thing with truffles. Truffles are really interesting. Have you ever heard of like the 10,000, I think it's a $10,000 pizza. It's just a regular ass pizza. They just put some truffles on it. So truffles are like seen, I think, in the world as like a super rare mushroom, super valuable. My thought process would be you pick up like a rusty shield, you fuse that with a Hearty Truffle. The shield is just as useless as it was 2 seconds before you fused it, but now it's worth like 100 grand. You can sell that for Beetle for like all of the money in the world.
That's a really cool idea.
Yeah, I see where you were going with that when you were talking about the pizza.
I'd never even thought about like the financial side of all this. No, that absolutely makes sense. If you can sell, because you could sell. Wait, could you sell gear in the last game? I think it was only items.
Oh, you're right. It is only items.
But that would give incentive to change it for sure. That'd be a really cool application of it.
Yeah, scam Beetle. Great fun.
Yeah.
We got big Hearty Truffles next, which I guess is going to be pretty similar, but just more money if we go off that. Years of going unpicked have allowed this Hearty Truffle to grow quite large. It's chock full of nutrients and boasts powerful healing properties. Yeah, I mean, I think like these would definitely have a niche if their whole thing was to be sold. That'd be super cool.
Yeah, and like this, like the palm fruit and the melon might turn if you put it on a stick instead of being more like a broadsword weapon and like more like a club. Even though they're both one-handed weapons, so they act pretty similar. But I don't know. I don't know if that would have a different effect.
They have different sound effects, so you know, you get a little bit of variety if nothing else. We got the Chillshroom, or no, it's just Chillshroom. Yeah, because chili would be hot. So this is often found at the base of pine trees in cold climates. These mushrooms are cool to the touch, and when eaten, allow one to stay cool even in arid regions. So, given what we saw with like the Puff Shroom in the trailer and what we've been discussing, it just makes sense to me if this one is hit, it cools Link off.
I think it's gonna freeze enemies.
You think it'll go that far?
Yeah, I think these type of things, along with like the different choo-choo elementals, I think they will have very similar effects.
That would be a better effect.
I'm starting to wish that I had not said that joke about the spiritual journey for the Hylian Shroom, because, man, Chillshroom. I could just imagine you shoot a Chillshroom at a Bokoblin. They are chilled out, man, and they are shrooming away.
They're just vibing. They're just trying to chill.
No, they're laying in the grass, having a good time.
Going. They're just
they're so gone.
I just imagine like one of the Bokoblins like sitting down vibing, and then you shoot another one with your bow, and then like his buddy starts doing it too. And then one by one, all the Bokoblins are chilling at the camp together. Like, yeah, bro.
It's basically
it's
a
bunch of
one-shot.
stoner Bokoblins.
We got the Sunshroom next, bright red mushroom that grows in hot climates, imbued with the power of heat. They allow you to endure the bitter cold. Now, this one sounds like a lot more powerful than the Chillshroom, so when you're telling me that one freezes, I could absolutely believe this one burns when it's hit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
you stick that in the shield.
Get like fire weapons just by equipping it to anything. Like, I think this one will definitely have combat applications.
Yeah, I'm like going back and forth in my head, because they did show when they were using the arrows that mushrooms were a thing that you could equip to arrows, but I'm like kind of conflicted. Is like the I feel the choo-choo elementals make sense that those would turn your arrows into fire, ice, or lightning arrows. I feel like the mushroom don't really seem like that logically, other than like their designs and descriptions. So I'm like kind of back and forth, but the fact that you can equip it to an arrow makes it feel like it should have some sort of like unique effect.
It could always be like a lesser fire, like the chew is like a big explosion of fire and this is just like a little sizzle.
Maybe.
I also want to mention with this, if we're going this route with the Sunshroom and with the Zapshroom next when we get to that, if you put this on your shield and you're using a wooden shield and then you take the hit and it like sets out a burst of flame or whatever, your shield's gonna burn, right? Or if you got a zap shield and you have a metal shield, you're gonna get zapped, aren't you? Like you have to think about
naturally.
You have to think about combinations like that, I think. I mean, I'm kind of glazing over the Zapshroom. Like, do you guys want to add anything more to that one? Now, this is where the mushrooms start to get a little more interesting, I think. We got some creative applications, I'm sure. We got the Rushroom next. This is a mushroom that can grow almost anywhere but prefers ceilings or sheer cliffs. It's said to have movement-enhancing properties. So what are you guys going to do with a Rushroom?
Man, I'm going to shoot that at a bear and turn it into the most incredible navigation animal of all time.
You could ride the bears in the first game. So
they were so slow, though. They were so slow. So it was like completely incompatible. But you get that thing souped up with you get that thing high on Rushrooms. Man, the possibilities.
Do bears eat mushrooms?
Hey, you don't need to eat mushrooms. If I get my little scientific arrow, I pierce that with the rush from afar. I inject that bear with some performance enhancing Rushrooms. It's gonna be a good time for me and the bear.
Gonna ride its back around Hyrule.
And me and that bear are gonna go sicko mode.
What are you gonna do with Razorshrooms? This mushroom's known for the natural slice in its cap. Eating one fosters a competitive spirit. I think you gotta shoot your bear with one of them too.
Man, yeah. You get two bears.
You got one on attack and one on transportation.
Fosters a competitive spirit.
Yeah, they'll push each other to their very peak.
Do you know what I would actually here's what I would love to do, and this is possibly out of the wheelhouse. Actually, no, it's definitely not out of the wheelhouse whatsoever. Eating one fosters a competitive spirit, right? So we just fuse the Razorshroom with the Korok leaf, And now the Korok leaf is shooting winds infused with Razorshroom. So like the air, like the way like a virus travels in the air, we've got the Razorshroom virus traveling through the air. You flap that into
into the Bokoblin camp.
No, I'm going somewhere else.
Okay.
You flap that into Kakariko Village.
Inciting revolution in Kakariko Village.
Because the great upheaval of society.
Let's discuss the Ironshroom. So the cap of this mushroom is very hard. Consumption bestows an overall sense of hardiness.
So one of my ideas, just purely based off of the name, this could be a unique one. If you hit an enemy with an Ironshroom fused weapon, what if they turn into metal? Like you hit a flying geese or some sort of bird, and you hit them with an Ironshroom arrow. Maybe they turn to metal and they just like collapse. Or maybe
so cool.
they turn to metal and now they're like really sensitive to electricity.
That is so cool.
So Silentshroom.
The Silentshroom, y'all. A strange mushroom that glows softly in the forest at night. Making a meal of this will allow one to move more stealthily. This one is so cool. I'm fixated on the glowing part. Because imagine this is one you can use at night to light things up. Like you shoot it and you can lure enemies using the light, or you can just see better in general. I think this sounds awesome.
Yeah,
do you know the Oh yeah, continue.
I was just gonna say I'd like to put these like all around like Link's house, like have them like light up and like, a little forest dwarf kind of aesthetic.
The house that you create using the fuse function, you make your own custom house, then you light it with these shrooms. That sounds amazing.
I think there's definitely some very interesting applications here. The first one that comes to mind is, have you ever seen Harry Potter before?
Yeah.
So do you know the cloak of invisibility that he gets in book 1 or film 1? There's obviously potential that you stick that on a shield, you maybe get a small little cloaking ring where you're invisible or undetectable within this ring when you have the shield equipped, but only like when you're holding it as a defense mechanism. On top of that, I feel like an iron sledgehammer infused with the Silentshroom could be really fun. As in, the Silentshroom, its property is that it makes one move stealthily, right? So let's say you have a weapon as powerful as a sledgehammer infused with the fumes of the Silentshroom. You smack an enemy on the head with that. That's powerful enough that they're knocked out, but now they're also invisible, like Hitman style. So you've got like the ultimate stealth weapon in the sledgehammer with the Silentshroom, because you can knock people unconscious and then they immediately turn invisible from the stealth shroom.
That gave me another idea while you're saying that. If you equipped it to a sledgehammer, it could also potentially muffle the sounds of the impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there is that whole sound mechanic,
Yeah, I mean, there are a whole lot of ways they could take this one. I think this is easily the most interesting mushroom of the bunch.
Another thought when you said sledgehammer, that being a two-handed weapon, if you put like a Silentshroom on like the end of that and you're in combat at nighttime and you're just spinning around with your glowing Silentshroom, I think that would just look really cool.
Yes, just for aesthetics, like it has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Let's talk. This one, I have no idea how we're going to take this one, but let's talk about the Hyrule Herb. So this is a healthy herb. It grows abundantly in the plains of Hyrule and has been known to have healing properties. So we've already had some healing ones. Can you guys think of any way this one could be unique from the regular Hylian Shroom? Yeah, moving on. All right. Let's talk about the Hearty Radish. This is a rare radish that grows best in sunny plains. Cook it before eating to temporarily increase your maximum hearts. Well, radishes at least are something that like I can imagine different things wanting to eat, especially animals that you hunt. Not enemies, but just wildlife. I could see this being a good tool to lure them.
I could see these having like an interesting, or at least be like the mascot of an interesting mechanic in being able to heal enemies. as in heal enemies that you wouldn't traditionally want to heal. I can't really think of many situations where that would be actually advantageous apart from like purely sadistic ones, but it would make for one of those fun in the moment moments where you think you get a new player who maybe sees the big Hearty Radish and says, yeah man, I stick this on the top of my stick right now, smack him in the head with a huge radish, and you smack the enemy in the head and all of a sudden they're completely healed and you're in big trouble then.
There could be application with enemies who fight each other. Like if you've ever seen videos where someone will take a guardian and lower it to a Hinox and then they fight, you could heal one of them to make them both deal more damage to each other, so that whatever one's losing stays alive a little longer. But that's like a very niche case.
You're just having a fun time watching the Hinox beat up each other, and so you can just keep healing them. That's pretty sadistic.
Extend their suffering.
Wow. And I guess you could do the same for the big Hearty Radish.
I'd like to think that if you fuse the Hearty Radish with the Hyrule Herb and planted it in the ground, you could maybe get an enemy to come along Mario 2 style, lift that up over their head, and now their arms are completely pinned down because they have to hold this massive radish.
Yeah, you're laughing until they manage to lift it up and then they throw it at you.
No, but they can't throw it because it's so heavy. They have to focus all their energy on not being collapsed by it. Like what the Titan from Percy Jackson. The Titan from Percy Jackson. The Titan from Greek mythology that...
From Percy Jackson.
Atlas.
Yeah, shout out to Atlas from Percy Jackson.
Shout out to
fame.
Atlas, my favorite character from Percy Jackson.
Gotta love him. Let's talk about I have no idea how to pronounce this, the cool Safflina. This medicinal plant grows in high elevations such as mountains in the Hebra or Garoda regions. When cooked into a dish, it will temporarily increase your heat resistance. So we got another heat resistance, but this one is more of like a flower. That makes me think back to like the bee idea, but I don't know how heat resistance and bees would play into each other at all.
I have a question. Do you guys think that that fusing goes as far as clothing?
I don't. I think they would have shown that off, unless it's like a thing where you use the materials to then craft dyes, sort of like in the first game, and then you get your clothing color change. But I don't think it's going to be you just fuse it onto your tunic or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. I would imagine the cool Safflina. I could see it like you fuse a cool Safflina to like a normal tunic. All of a sudden, it's a leather jacket, like a biker jacket.
Yeah, I was thinking about this earlier, actually, when I was looking at some of like the dragon parts and like some of the monster parts. It kind of gave me Monster Hunter like vibes. Like if you could fuse different like monster parts onto your tunic and just walk around like looking like a monster that you've slain.
That would be really cool, yeah.
I don't think that will be in the game, but I mean, who knows?
If you could merge it onto the tunic, even if it didn't like dramatically change it, I mean, it's pretty easy to imagine Link just having some flowers in like a shirt pocket that sort of keeps him cool. I don't think that's...
Yeah, that's true.
Like, that wouldn't be outside the realm of possibility, I don't think, but I also think if you could fuse things with the tunic, like, there's no way Aonuma wouldn't have shown it off in that video, given that the game is coming out soon, and I don't think we expect, like, another blowout of information before then. I mean, maybe, but...
Give Link a flower crown.
That would be pretty nice. He'd be
Give him
spiffy.
sunglasses. The cool Safflina. Sunglasses, because sunglasses are cool.
And a Chillshroom, right?
Yeah. And smoking up some Chillshroom with some cool Safflina glasses.
We have the warm Safflina and the electric Safflina. Do we have anything like interesting to say about any of these?
The only thing I can really speculate is if you can attach them to an arrow, do they get fire, ice, and lightning properties? I don't know. I'm not sure.
It's possible that like all of these different warm, cool, shock things will just replace the different arrow types. But I do think the fact that they explicitly showed off the choose probably means that's what's gonna do those things. But maybe they'll give these like a lesser effect or a similar effect just to have them do something cool.
Yeah, I can imagine that, yeah.
Now this one I definitely think could have an interesting property. So the Swift Carrot. This carrot is cultivated extensively in Kakariko Village. It strengthens the legs and hips when cooked into a dish, which helps increase your movement speed. So this goes back to our like apple idea. I think carrots have always been associated with Zelda and the horses and stuff. I think it would be very strange if you couldn't feed this to your horse and increase its movement speed. Or, I mean, at the very least, it's going to increase its affection. but ideally it increases movement speed, and I don't know how practical it is, like feeding it using your shield, but maybe there's some world where you can attach a carrot to a spear and then feed your horse from like a little bit of a distance. I don't know what the practicality of that is, but that's something.
What if you can get a long spear and then fuse a carrot to the end of the stick and then ride a horse? Would that make them a little bit more docile without having tamed them?
That makes a lot of sense.
And then you can sort of lead them to wherever you want to.
Yeah, before they're properly tamed.
Like, maybe.
Or actually, the horses in Breath of the Wild kind of like to do their own thing, whereas like Epona in, say, Twilight Princess goes directly to wherever you point her to, but the horses in Breath of the Wild like to follow the set paths and everything. If you had a carrot on a spear and you could hold it in front of you, maybe you could get better control of your horse, just in general.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe.
Even disregarding like tamed or not, because even tamed ones aren't perfect in that way. And maybe that would just be a better way to increase control. Do you guys think that the Endura Carrot would be different in any way? This is the one that is highly valued as a medicinal plant. This carrot contains a large amount of nourishing energy. So this one, the fact that it's like an endurance carrot makes me think that it might have the thing, you know how, I don't know what they're called, the thing that lets you speed up your horse a set number of times, is that spurs? Like the number of times you can spur your horse? I think this could give it like an additional spur or something if you actually fed it to the horse. But again, if you're luring it with the carrot, I think the idea is you don't want it to eat the carrot. So I don't think fusing it will give the Endura Carrot any special properties that the Swift Carrot cannot do unless you actually let the horse eat it.
That said, to recycle an older idea, improving the durability on a weapon.
That makes sense, yeah. Let's talk about this one. I think there's like probably a few things you can do. The Fortified Pumpkin. This is an extremely tough pumpkin raised in village fields. Making it a part of one's diet is said to toughen up the body. Immediately, I'm just thinking about how they used a stone in the trailer to make a really strong club. I think this pumpkin could be used in the exact same way, but I'm sure there's more you could do with it too. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think this is sort of in that melon palm fruit realm where it will significantly increase like the attack power of like a sword or a stick when attached, and probably the durability.
I've noticed in Tears of the Kingdom the whole idea of fusing. We could say it's kind of similar to Minecraft, Minecraft's crafting system. I mean, not necessarily in execution, but I suppose in idea for sure. Taking old items, putting them together, making something new. Minecraft popularized that. Pumpkins, I don't know, have either of you played Minecraft very much?
Yeah, I've played a lot of Minecraft.
Okay, so you know the way pumpkins, if you put a pumpkin on your head, like it scares off the Enderman.
Right, yeah.
So, look, pumpkins are very linked with Halloween. Maybe you fuse a pumpkin to your shield, all of a sudden, enemies or animals or something, it has some kind of fear-based property. It's a property that isn't really in Breath of the Wild, but it could make like contextual sense because like pumpkins, Halloween, stuff like that.
Yeah, there's some logic there. I would like that a lot.
I would be surprised if Link could just fire a whole pumpkin with an arrow. That would look
actually
so silly, but it might be really cool.
It would probably have terrible range, but if you shot it like off a cliff straight down, I mean, it would have better power, right?
Yeah, I'm just curious what the interactions would be like if you could do something like that.
That actually brings up an interesting question. Do you think there are going to be some things on this list that like you can equip to a sword or you can equip to a shield but not the bow, or any other mixes and matches like that where some items are locked to certain equipment?
Well, I don't know about inventory stuff, but obviously like boulders or logs that you find, that's going to be restricted to shields and swords. And then I don't know if you're going to be able to find like an apple in the wild and then just fuse it right there onto your sword, into your shield, or if that's going to be restricted to like the bow. I'm not sure. Do you have any thoughts, Sakka?
Look, obviously we're in the pre-release phase and I'm extremely excited, so I'm trying not to think about that, even though I know realistically odds are there's going to be some restrictions. Right now it's nice to kind of think like that there won't be, but also, man, like, they're not going to let you put like goat butter on an ancient battle axe. Like, that makes no sense.
I mean,
well, here, let me say something in defense of this maybe being possible. That stone in the trailer was humongous. And then when Aonuma fused it to Link's stick, it became a lot smaller for it to make logical sense. So it could be a thing where like you try and fuse the pumpkin with an arrow, and then it gets a little bit smaller to be more manageable. Like, I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility.
That's true. Or
it'd be so difficult though. Like the amount of stuff, not even items, like the rock. The rock, to my mind, like sticking that in the arrow was mind-blowing to me, because the rock isn't a pick-upable item. It's just a stray object. How far does this go? Like, there are so many permutations for what's even possible. It beggars belief. So I feel like there must be some kind of restriction. So I'm trying to set my expectations there, but it's difficult to say.
I guess now that I'm thinking about it again, the Puff Shroom was attached to the shield, and presumably that's probably a pick-upable item,
For
considering it's a mushroom. So I guess you would be able to attach those to your shield or your sword as well.
Well, now, remember, this is a game that we are all like, oh yeah, this is probably going to come out in like 2, maybe 3 years, and it's been 5 years. So, like, it's entirely possible the reason that Breath of the Wild 2, or rather Tears of the Kingdom, was taking so long to develop when everyone was seemingly expecting it to be sooner is because they were trying to make this as expansive as possible. Like, we don't really know what they were doing. And from what we've heard, it doesn't sound like they were getting into, like, developmental problems. I mean, well, there was the slight delay, of course. But, like, going into the game, they were saying, oh, we had so many ideas in the first game that we just decided to make a whole sequel instead of doing more DLC. So, like, I think that speaks more to, like, wanting to cram a lot of content into the game rather than having problems making things work or whatever.
And that's without even saying, like, the new items. Anything. Do you know there's one, or I think it's like the second trailer they ever released. There's like a 2-second clip, and I've been thinking about it recently. There's a 2-second clip of Link, and he's got a shield, and he's shooting like a flamethrower shield. He's got a flamethrower shield, and when I first saw that trailer, I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's like a new item. And no, that's the fusing mechanic. We saw it literally in the second-ever trailer. We just never noticed.
Exactly, yeah. Like, I don't know, I expect this to be pretty expansive. And I don't think we've seen any items yet where I'm like, yeah, this absolutely could not be fused to this other item. At least, like, it'd be a little weird to think of a rock fusing to, like, an arrow.
Butter.
Butter. But at the same time, like, the way that the logs are fused together is clearly, like, some kind of sticky magic looking thing. So I don't think there's any reason things couldn't fuse. It's not like the arrow has to pierce the rock to stick to it. It just kind of does it.
Yeah. There's also the applications for, if we're still talking about the rock, you shoot, let's say you stick a rock on your arrow, you shoot the rock arrow at, say, a rock on a different mountain. The increased attack power of the rock arrow makes the rock fall off the mountain. You jump on the boulder, you rewind, now you're on top of the mountain. There's just so many applications.
Yeah, I think part of the appeal of a game like the first one was being able to have so many ways to do the same task. And I think that they're going to want to take that to its limit with this one. And I do expect we'll see interesting interactions like that, or at least I hope so.
Do you know Metroid games?
Yeah.
So Metroid games are interesting because the way they're designed is like lock and key. So there's locks everywhere in like the doors, or like rooms where you need to have a space jump to get to the top of. Those are locks, and the keys are the power-ups. I like to imagine, or I like to say that Breath of the Wild, this is what I've been writing about a lot. I'm trying to get my video out before Breath of the Wild 2 comes out, but there's a whole thing that I talk about where I would consider Breath of the Wild to be not lock and key game design like Metroid, but lock and lock pick. So your ability to overcome obstacles doesn't necessarily depend on the key that they give you. It depends on your knowledge of the intricacy of the lock and the limits of your lock pick. It places a lot of responsibility on the player. And Tears of the Kingdom with this fusing system looks to be taking that so far.
I think that's a really perfect analogy, especially with the fusing mechanic. I think they talked about like, oh yeah, you can either rewind the stone to get into the sky, or there's many other ways, and we hope you just experiment. So I think that really is a core to their philosophy with these games.
I don't even remember what item we were just talking about.
The pumpkin.
Yeah, we went off on the pumpkin because
pumpkin.
we were thinking about like,
Pumpkin
could you
trail.
attach it to an arrow or whatever.
Yeah.
There was a lot to talk about the pumpkins. I think they're one of the most interesting items we've covered so far. But let's move on. We'll go to the Swift Violet. So this is a vitality-rich flower. It blooms mainly on cliffsides, and the nourishing compounds provide increased movement speed. I think we generally established like the flowers probably are not going to be the most interesting in whatever form they take. Do you guys have any ideas for this one?
Not
To be honest, yeah, I mean, no.
Yeah.
All right,
Moving on.
we're just gonna say the Swift Violet's gonna be like lame. I don't know. Maybe it'll increase the speed if you shoot it at yourself. You shoot an arrow straight up, hits you in the head, boom, you're faster. Moving on. Mighty Thistle. This medicinal plant is known for its sharp thorns and for the fruit it bears. The fruit is highly valued for its ability to increase attack power. Sharp thorns. That is something we can work with here.
Probably just increase in attack when you fuse. That's all I can think
Yeah. Probably would just... Oh, so, I mean, okay. Again, this is like going out there, but, you know, you fuse that with a Korok leaf, and now all of a sudden you're raining these, like, what's it, the sharp thorns and the fruit that it bears. You know, you're absolutely showering an absolute volley of thorns using the wind from the Korok leaf, because the thorns are now on the leaf.
of. Sort of like a needle storm attack.
Yeah.
I was imagining something way less exciting where you just put it on your shield, and then when the enemy hits your shield, they get hurt. I thought that was
that'd
like
be so cool though, because like this is like a different kind of damage.
yeah. I mean, it is. It's
Yeah.
a more defensive.
It's like in
gameplay.
Pokemon.
Yeah.
You know when like in Pokemon you poison someone and it keeps damaging them. So like if they hit you, you have just checkmated them. Like they're stuck. There's a thorn stuck in them now. So they're just gonna keep taking damage, and you just stare them down and watch them die.
Link is going to be a real villain in this game. He's got too many tools at his disposal.
I'm really curious about everyone's thoughts on the next item.
The Armoranth. That is how it's pronounced, by the way. I thought it was Amaranth, but no, it is Armoranth.
Armoranth.
They made a little pun there. I like it. This tough medicinal plant cannot be broken. Whoa, okay.
Yeah.
Its durable yet
Jesus.
flexible fibers are said to make the body more resistant. So something that cannot be broken.
Will this plant totally negate the item durability system that is intrinsic to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom?
This is the fix
I-
everyone's been waiting for.
It's like, I doubt it will totally negate this game's core combat feature. I just don't see it, but maybe it's just they make it super rare in this game, and that's the way you can make items not able to be broken.
Imagine combining it with the Hylian shield.
Yeah.
Like, it actually is just like infinite.
Do you know what would be so funny? So the second part of that statement, it's durable yet flexible. Oh god, it would be so funny if it made like your item any item completely indestructible, but like completely useless, because it turns it into like this flexible like balloon weapon where it just like flops around the place, does absolutely nothing.
It's like the toy hammer, just turns
Yeah.
everything into that.
Yeah.
That'd be like the most cruel thing. But
Oh,
then again,
I'd love it.
these are the same developers who made it so that you get like a piece of poop for collecting all the Koroks. So like, is it out of the realm of possibility for
You
them
know-
to tease infinite durability, and then it just makes all of your stuff absolute garbage?
I think you bring up a good point.
That's a cool idea though. I think like anything that increases durability is going to be a very desirable thing. And if this is like, the description makes it sound like
I
it is
know.
the best for
I read
durability.
that description a few items ago, and I was like, wait, hold up.
I think that description hypes it up a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think that's realistic, but pretty good. Let's talk about next one on the list, Blue Nightshade. This is a plant that grows in quieter areas of Hyrule. At night, it gives off a soft glow. Cook it to increase your stealth. So this is kind of like the stealth shroom from before, but now we got a flower. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in real life, Nightshade is a poisonous plant, isn't it? Isn't that like a very famous, like, you
I think
just
that's
die?
Nightlock,
Hold up, I'm gonna Google that
maybe.
while you guys discuss what to do.
But I don't think this is going to have any alternate effect that we haven't already discussed with, like, I think the Stamella Shroom sort of did the exact same thing.
Yeah, it just seems like this is like the dark pit of flowers.
The dark pit.
Oh, not the Stamella Shroom, but the Silentshroom. Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, cool. Maybe it will have a unique arrow effect, attach it to an arrow, and maybe, I have no idea. I really don't know. But, I mean, I guess that will be the fun part of testing everything, to see if they all have, like, really cool effects, but I'm not seeing it based on what we've been shown.
So, to answer what I was saying earlier, there's one called Deadly Nightshade, which it induces hallucinations and is a poison. So there you go. I don't know if Blue Nightshade is like a real thing or one that they made up, but actual Nightshade can be poisonous. So there you go.
I was just thinking this could be like if depending on the level of the hallucinations, this could be like the next step up the ladder for the Chillshroom bokoblins.
You hit them with a Chillshroom, and then when their guard's down, you hit them with the Blue Nightshade. Now, this next one, I have no idea how to take it, but I want it to have a really cool use. The Silent Princess in Breath of the Wild 1 was like, I wouldn't say it was like integral to the game, but it was like in the story, it was part of the memories, it was Zelda's whole thing. So the description says, this lovely flower was said to have been a favorite of the Princess of Hyrule. Once feared to have gone extinct, it's recently been spotted growing in the wild. I could see this just being like an aesthetic thing, like you put it on your shield and it has a nice like little flower on it, looks cool, whatever. But I want to hope that there's something more we can do here. So do you guys have any cool ideas?
I think this is like the main nature item of the game. It's very important to like the story and themes of Breath of the Wild, and really important to Zelda. That being said, I don't think it's going to give you something like light arrows.
That'd be
even though
really
it's
strong.
Really closely tied to Zelda. But I think there, like, part of me just thinks there has to be some sort of unique effect, just because, I don't know, it just is really important to like the game.
It's such
lore.
it's such an integral image. I personally can think of two applications. One of them would be contingent on me adding something to a story that hasn't even been told yet. So do you know the malice? So I would imagine the Silent Princess as like the mascot of Zelda, I suppose. Zelda's mascot. You stick that on a shield. Now all of a sudden it like parts malice like the Red Sea. You can walk through the malice. It kind of the power of the Silent Princess. It's like channeling Zelda's kind of spirit, I suppose. It stands spiritually against the malice and kind of parts it. On that note of the malice, we saw in Breath of the Wild there were a lot of enemies poisoned by the malice. I would like to imagine a scenario where there are certain like villagers who are poisoned by malice, and maybe they try to attack you, and if you hit them with a Silent Princess arrow, it gets rid of that malice and turns them back to a human again. Likewise, maybe you shoot a bokoblin with like a regular bokoblin with a Silent Princess arrow. This is the most interesting idea to my mind. You shoot an enemy with a Silent Princess arrow, it like temporarily convinces them that Ganon is a bad guy, and they join you, and they start fighting the other bokoblins with you. It's like it changes their mind temporarily, and they ally themselves with Hyrule.
I love all of these ideas. I just want this to do like something cool. My only thought with it was, I don't know if this is correct, so tell me if I'm wrong, but when I played Breath of the Wild, the only spot I remember seeing them was right next to a fairy fountain out behind Kakariko Village. So I could maybe see there being some connection between the Silent Princess and fairies or fairy fountains. Maybe something like, it would let off some kind of like particle effect that kind of points you towards fairy fountains to help you find them.
Yeah.
I like your idea of it like parting the malice way more. I think that just sounds so cool.
I'll tell you what, like, do you remember that thing with the Korok Forest where you had the torch? By the way, this got me for like 4 hours. I was standing there in Korok Forest. I had no idea where to go. I had to Google it to try and figure out, like, why do I keep getting lost in the woods? It was the wind kind of blows the torch in the direction you have to go. I could so see you fusing a Silent Princess with like a torch. Now all of a sudden it's a blue torch, and the light or the flame of the torch blows in the direction of the nearest like shrine or fairy fountain or something like that.
Even if it didn't serve a practical purpose and it just like blew in the direction of, say, where Zelda was trapped, I still think that would be so cool.
Yeah.
Just something with this plant. I want something thematic or just cool.
Yeah. I think they gotta give us something special for this one.
Next up is going to be a little less exciting. We got acorns, often found on the ground near trees. Squirrels adore this nut, so you may have competition when foraging. Add one to a meal for a nutty seasoning. I think this is just going to be like squirrel bait, right?
Yeah, or like maybe you shoot the squirrel bait at something like a beehive and it just, squirrels go apeshit and just start trying to attack the enemy that you've baited it with.
I would really like that. Zelda usually does, like, the cuckoos are what goes crazy when you rile them up. But they have done stuff like the pigs in Wind Waker. So I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibility for them to have another animal, like squirrels in this case, go wild if you did something. And I think that would be much more exciting than simply like luring them to hunt them or whatever. Let's talk about the Chickaloo Tree Nut, I guess it's called. Small birds.
This is a game changer.
I'm not even gonna finish. Just, I'm so ready. What have you got in mind for the Chickaloo Tree Nut?
Literally nothing.
I'm gonna keep reading it. You can eat it raw for a minor effect, but it can also be added as a spice to other recipes. Yeah, you're right. This actually does have nothing. Like, what do you do with this?
All right, let's go. Bird egg.
I was hoping by the time I like said the sentence, I might have thought something by the end of it and just spitball nonsense. But no, nothing.
Yeah, no. I that one. Moving on. Bird egg. A fresh bird egg necessary for making dishes such as omelets and crepes. Crepes? It's crepes.
Crepes?
I don't know.
Crepes.
These can be snagged from birds' nests, nutritious and delicious. I guess the obvious thought with bird eggs is like they have a soft shell, so if you shoot it with an arrow, it's gonna crack. So what can you do with like cracking eggs? Make a loud noise, maybe? Lure some enemies? I don't know.
Blind them with the yolk, maybe.
That would be amazing. That'd be really cool.
There's no way.
That would be way too cool, but put it in the game, y'all.
All right.
It would be sick if they could hatch cocos or cuckoos.
Yeah.
Oh.
That would be real fun if you could like shoot the egg and from it hatched a cuckoo.
Yeah, no, that would be really fun actually, because they're hard to come by in the first game. So if you could just pop them out wherever, you could. I mean, I guess they don't have as much of a purpose with the paraglider around, but still fun.
Yeah. Do you know the Moblin arm and the Lysalphus arm, the Bokoblin arm, the Moblin arm, the big skeleton arms?
Yeah.
They were my least favorite weapon by far in Breath of the Wild because they gave me the heebie-jeebies. But if you were to I'm trying to think of applications for them. It's difficult to think of an application for them. In a dream world, they would just change how those arms operate. And instead of it being like a weapon where you can swing it, if you fuse it with something like a bird egg that it could hold, it turns into like a launcher. Do you know what I mean? Like you swing that arm back, you fling it forward like a fishing rod, and it absolutely fires that egg as if you threw it with a hand. As if you threw it with your hand, but because it's this massive skeleton hand, it's got so much more increased power.
Yeah, like a one-shot thing that just absolutely explodes. I mean, like, if you go to the logical extreme of that, maybe in the right circumstances, eggs could function like bomb arrow replacements.
Just absolutely skull someone with an egg. Just explodes on contact.
I mean, if you hit a Hinox in the eye with an egg, like, that is not gonna feel good.
Hey, if you fuse a bird egg with a flame choo-choo and then stick it in the arm of a moblin arm and then you absolutely skull that at someone, then who knows?
You know, if you put an egg on your shield and then you go shield surfing, you can have a nice satisfying crack when you first land. That's my best.
You do that in the desert. You got a lovely little trail of fried egg.
That's amazing. All right, here's a cool one. We got some coarser bee honey. Honey straight from the hive is chock full of nutrients. Cooking this into a meal unlocks the potential of these nutrients and provides a stamina recovery effect. With honey, you gotta think like stickiness, right?
Yeah,
like
that's where my mind was going.
A sticky weapon. Imagine whacking an enemy, then they get stuck to it, or like a sticky arrow where you like shoot it at their feet and then they can't move. This might be like so hopeful, but imagine the potential of honey. Anything. Honey shield surfing, it just doesn't work. Like, oh man.
No. I've just had an idea.
All right, let's hear it.
Man, anti-gravity shield surfing. Okay, hang on. All right, okay. Here's my idea. Okay.
Yeah.
So, this it's not even that good of an idea because it relies on something that hasn't even been confirmed, right? Okay, let's say you get a spear. Yeah. You infuse that with honey. Actually, let's not use a spear. Let's use a botor. Or I'm looking here for like the biggest item that you could possibly stand on. What's like the biggest thing you could throw?
Probably one of the Lionel weapons, the Lionel Crusher.
Yeah, I suppose a Lionel sword. You launch that at a wall with a bit of honey. Actually, no, that's so silly because you can't stand on the weapons. I was gonna say you could make platforms and then like stand on them.
Oh, that's
once they're stuck to the wall. But I don't know. I don't even know how practical that would be.
Well, it would save you stamina. So if you like barely couldn't climb somewhere, you could stick something to the wall with honey, climb up it a little bit, get your stamina back, and then continue climbing. You can make a whole staircase if you had enough of them.
There's also the interesting thought of the ultra hand like cars and boats. You stick a bit of honey to the bottom of those, all of a sudden you've got like a Mario Kart 8 cart where you can just anti-gravity go up everything because it just sticks to everything.
But then it would stick to the ground too, wouldn't it?
Oh crap, yeah, then it wouldn't even move. Okay, never mind. It wouldn't even get going.
But it could help you like stick your stuff together if it wasn't fused perfectly right or something. I don't know.
You could make tell you what it would be great for. Do you know when you're up on a mountain and it starts to rain?
Oh yeah, so you can climb in the rain using honey because it'll improve your grip.
It's not like Link puts it on his hands.
Yeah.
Well, you shoot like little spots on the wall to get to rest at, or it's like more. I don't know.
I was also thinking like you're on the mountain, maybe there's a tiny little alcove, but like it's not sheltered enough for you to make a campfire and then wait until it's morning to try and climb again. But like let's say there's a tree nearby, you get that tree or a couple of them, or you get some like miscellaneous objects. You honey them against the side of a mountain to create a tiny little square meter of shelter because they're stuck to the side of a mountain, and it creates like a little makeshift roof over you to stop the rain coming down. Now you can make a little campfire, rest beside it. Hopefully by the time you wake up the rain is done.
Or if you're making a roof, you could even use the new power that lets you go straight up.
Oh shit, yeah. Just make infinite roofs and then just against a wall and then just fly through them.
Yeah, like boop, 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 and then you just have to stick them with honey, like using logs or something, I don't know.
My god, oh Jesus, I hope that they don't add honey now.
Honey would be like the octo balloon of this game, I think, if they gave it properties like this. I think there's a million things you could do with it, and it would be amazing.
Man, that's so cool. You could just stick in... Man, my brain is like flying right now.
There's too much. Conversely, Hylian Rice, our next thing. What are we going to do with this? This grain is a favorite among residents of Kakariko Village. It's grown in regions with a lot of water and is quite versatile, used as an ingredient in things like risotto and rice balls.
Maybe you can just go to a pond and soak up all the water.
Drain the river.
And then you could take control of that town and then tax people for water.
That's a great idea.
Just get rid of their water supplies like the Romans.
Yeah, actually, that never fails. If you clog the river with rice, what do? Their crops aren't getting watered. They need to rely upon your rice to survive.
Or you could be like, do you ever see those people in New York who like can summon the birds?
You gotta explain this to me. Who's this New York bird person?
Like,
Okay, you have to.
tamers?
I don't live in America, but from the outside, I always see like videos of like people in New York, and like they can just like summon pigeons, and like the pigeons will like just descend, and like they have their arms out, and the pigeons are just like all over them, because they feed the pigeons every day, so the pigeons like are their friend. I don't know if I've just described a scene from a film that I've forgotten when I was a child, but I swear to God I've seen this before, like a man, or I've seen footage of a man like summoning pigeons in New York. I will look for this video and send it to you as soon as this discussion is done. But let's say, Link, instead of using bread, I know that birds love rice. So in our house, whenever there's leftover rice from like meals or whatever, white rice, I'll stick a bit of butter in it and kind of cook it up in the pan, and then I'll put it out in the garden. Especially during winter, it's very good for birds to get a little bit of extra fat, and they like the grains. So this is all to say that Link could turn into New York Birdman and like summon loads of birds, and like I don't really know what the application of that would be, but yeah.
You can hunt them and eat them, get bird meat.
But like they're your friends. I think that would break their trust.
Link the bird whisperer.
Link the bird whisperer. Link the New York bird whisperer.
Amazing. I can't believe this is where we're at.
I didn't even say what we'd fuse it to. I don't even know what you would fuse it to.
You fuse it to everything, I think. Like, why would you not want rice on your bow, your shield, and your sword all at once, right?
And everything's better with rice.
We're trying to attract a lot of pigeons here, like.
Yeah, there's a lot of pigeons.
Shall we move on to Tabantha Wheat?
I don't know if you've ever heard of New York pigeon, but like the birds in New York, they love wheat as well as rice.
Oh dear. Are we going to use a mix and mash? This grain is cultivated extensively on the Tabantha Plains. It's ground finely with a millstone to be used in cooking. Use it to make things such as stews and breads. Birds do love bread as well.
Birds like bread more than rice.
Alright, scratch the rice plan.
Okay, I think the last couple ingredients we have here that are clearly just designed for cooking, I don't see them really having much application here.
I actually have a big brain one for when we get to goat butter, but we haven't gotten there yet. Are we just gonna say wheat is lame, guys? Like, there's nothing good with wheat.
Wheat and rice can summon birds, I think, is what we're gonna have to go with.
Alright, better than nothing. Let's talk about cane sugar. When boiled with other ingredients, the cane breaks down into a sweet juice necessary for making cakes and other sweets. It's commonly found in ingredient stores. Put this near fire and then it'll melt, I guess. Is that useful?
I don't know. I like to think of it maybe the same way as like the Hearty Durian, except like the inverse. So like the Hearty Durian has a bad smell. The cane sugar makes people like you because it's got a great smell.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Lure something with it. I mean, I don't know if there's like a reason to lure villagers, but maybe some animals or something. There must be
For
something.
Experiments.
Yeah, you experiment with it, you find something. Now, on to goat butter. Butter made from the milk of a domesticated white goat, in addition to being used in dishes like stews and, oh geez, marinere. That's something French. Marinere, I don't know. It's often used when making cakes and other sweets. So right away, let me present to you an idea. You're Link. You're at the top of a mountain, and you want to get to the bottom fast. What do? Shield surf. You put some
oil up that shield.
You oil up that shield.
You don't use honey.
Yeah, don't use the honey. That's gonna slow you down. But if you put goat butter on your shield, imagine how hyped that would be. Like, you go flying down.
gosh.
It sounds amazing. You could hear me out. Goat butter on your arrow tips. What's gonna happen when you shoot that at the wheels of your car, huh? Think about how fast your car is gonna be moving if it can get a grip. All right, what you do honey
I like-
on 2 wheels, and then you do goat butter on the other 2 wheels, and then you got the ones giving you traction and the other ones going fast.
So you're just spinning around.
Yeah, you're spinning all over the place. I even if like you equip this to a sword and you whack an enemy with like butter, like if the enemy falls down on the ground, they're gonna like slide down the mountain. You know what I'm saying?
I would love. Do you remember the 1,000-degree knife challenge?
Yes.
Okay, so imagine you butter up like a Lionel sword. No, you butter up a Traveler's Claymore, right? And you stick that inside of a flame. You make that hot. It's oily. One slice, it cut through anything. 1,000-degree knife.
Oh yeah, that's exactly the way. There's like some big butter combos here, you guys. I'm just saying, like this one.
Bread and butter.
Yeah,
bread
we
and
got
butter combos.
we got some bread and butter combos if you use the Tabantha Wheat.
I think it's interesting, like the inverse of the honey almost. Like it makes everything slippier.
I think it's infinitely cooler than the honey, and I already thought the honey was like the coolest thing.
It's like the yin and yang. Honey
Yes.
makes it sticky, butter makes it slippy.
I'm just imagining shield surfing. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
It just sounds amazing to me. The next one, this one I agree, I don't know what you do with. Fresh milk. This fresh milk comes from the Hatno cows and white goats kept in the village. It's delicious on its own, but can also be used as an ingredient in soups and stews. Y'all, what are we doing with milk?
We can make almond milk with it by fusing it with nuts. That's literally my only idea.
It would taste pretty good.
It would taste amazing.
You could fuse it with some cookies, and dunk them.
Milk and cookies.
Yeah.
Just have a nice little treat.
Fuse it with...
Like a milky shield, milky bow, and milky sword aren't gonna do anything, right? Like we can just... We'll move on then. I don't know what you do with milk. We'll talk about Goron Spice. This one could be something. Made from several types of spices, this secret Goron seasoning has been handed down for generations. An initial wave of spiciness paves the way for sweetness. Maybe it has like different effects on different enemies since it has both spiciness and sweetness. And I imagine it would do something with the Gorons, I just don't know what. But like fusing it specifically, what is that going to be good for? Like, if something hits your shield and it's fused with it, could this do something like what we were talking about with the spicy mushroom? Maybe. That's my best guess, but what do you guys think?
Goron Spice. I like to think, like, looking at the name, like, it's attached to the Gorons, so I'd like to think, like, what's a property of the Goron species that, like, could be borrowed?
Well, they eat rocks, they're immune to lava, and they can curl up in a ball, and they say brother a lot.
Maybe lava immunity, but only while you're saying brother.
This is the most hyper-specific, yeah.
I think lava immunity could be interesting, for sure. Like, shield surfing on lava, maybe, if you...
Whoa!
If you put it on a shield.
That is so cool.
That could be hype.
That'd be amazing.
To be fair, yeah, I can't really imagine anything cooler than, like, going up to the top of the volcano and just shield surfing down the lava.
Yeah, no, that sounds incredible. I feel like based off the name and the description, like, there probably is some crazy stuff you can do here, but we're not going to top that. So let's go with our last one for now. The last of our natural materials, rather. This is Monster Extract. As a result of Kilton's research into monsters, this suspicious spice can be used to punch up dishes while cooking. Apparently it can be used to make a number of monsters' meals. So this is, like, I don't know, Monster Extract makes it sound like it's, like, part of a monster's body, but it makes monstrous meals. So maybe it's something that monsters like eating? I'm imagining it could be paired with something like you know how bokoblin camps have the meat that they cook there and you can watch them from afar. If you shot Monster Extract onto their meat, is that going to make them go into like a frenzy? Because a lot of time they're like dancing around their meat and they're kind of like half paying attention to it. But if you coated it in this, maybe they'd be like completely absorbed in it and they wouldn't notice you as easily.
I'm also wondering if some special items in this game, when fused to weapons, will create like an entirely new weapon rather than just a sort of stick and glue of weapons. Rather, it will totally transform a sword or a shield into a new class of equipment. Kind of like Kid Icarus fusion, like it'll create a new weapon. For specifically for special items like the monster extract. Like I wonder if any items in this game will have that sort of unique, deeper fusion.
Even if not, there is the possibility that if you fuse this with a weapon that was from a monster, it would get a bigger attack bonus than if you fused it with, like, say, a stick or like a Hyrule Knight's sword or something. Like, if you give it to a Lionel Club, I would expect the monster extract to be more potent on that, right?
It could like be maybe an inverse of the idea of the Silent Princess, where the Silent Princess was, or the hypothetical Silent Princess effect was make Ganon enemies ally with Hyrule. The Goron Spice does like the opposite. I'm not really sure what the practical application would be, but I kind of like thinking of things in yin and yang anyway. Like you can reverse, if you create cause and effect, you can then reverse it using the opposite side of the coin.
Yeah, I'm really into that idea too. I think monster extract is one of those things that's like, this is very clearly a fictional ingredient that they made for the game, and so because of that, they can kind of give it whatever properties they feel like giving it. So
yeah,
if it is in Tears of the Kingdom, I think we should expect something really weird and interesting.
Are there any, actually, really quickly,
Yeah.
are there any monsters, like monster creatures that we know descend directly from an animal?
Descend from an animal? I mean, probably the Lizalfos have, right?
So, yes, that's a good point. What if we were to fuse, like, not exactly fuse a lizard with the monster extract, but maybe shoot a lizard with like a monster extract arrow, or blow like monster extract air particles using the Korok leaf in the direction of a lizard. Maybe it turns into like a Lizalfos. There's like no I can't really think of an application for that practically, but it would be cool.
You could get different drops after killing it, if nothing else. So if you needed specifically like Lizalfos guts or like a Lizalfos weapon. Actually, I don't know if Lizalfos drop guts, but they drop like tails. So if you needed that as opposed to like a regular lizard for cooking, yeah, I guess there could be like a purpose for that, sure.
Use Bokoblin horns with monster extract to bring Bokoblin back to life. Oh, tell you what, right? Okay, this is me going down an incredibly hypothetical sinkhole, I suppose. So picture this: Lionel Hoof, monster extract. You bring the Lionel back to life with the monster extract, then you shoot the Lionel with a Silent Princess arrow. Now the Lionel's on your side. You take down an enemy camp, and then you hit him with a Chillshroom, and now he's out for the count.
You're
just
imagining
high as a kite.
Yeah, you're imagining like a portable enemy spawning system, which would be really fascinating.
And then combine that with like the Silent Princess.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, if there was a way to like spawn enemies and then tame them, that would be insane.
That's like having summons,
Yeah.
That'd be amazing. Honestly, that's the coolest idea we've had yet for the monster extract. I would love that. But unless you guys have any final thoughts on the materials, I guess we'll close out this section there.
I think we've hit a lot. We've hit a lot of it. Probably 90% of it it won't happen, but maybe that 10% will involve the goat butter shield surfing.
That's all we need.
Yeah. Or the Chillshrooms.
True, the Chill Bokoblins.
I love that of all these items, the one that we're drawn to is the Chillshroom.
I just can't get the image of like a bunch of stoner Bokoblins with sunglasses on, smoking on a cool Safflina, blasting a bunch of Chillshrooms in the back of my ultra handinated van. That's the dream.
This is what I want from Tears of the Kingdom. I won't even buy the game if it doesn't have... Alright, I'm lying. I'd probably buy the game pretty much no matter what at this point. Come on. It's gonna be so sick.
It will. It will be so sick. I cannot wait.